think I finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. Oh wait, that's behind me. Oh yeah, there's the light at the end of the tunnel. I get mixed up sometimes, don't I? Well, sure enough, I found a new comment. Actually, wow, it looks like several. They must be about the same topic or something. Yeah, that's what happened. All right, let's figure this out. It says, the first video was, hair loss cure from within, some will never overcome. And by the way, I bet I'll be making another follow-up because in theory, that's one of the worst videos I ever made, especially for teenage boys. But I need some more input on that before I find out what I should really be saying to 15-year-old boys who are losing their hair, because I can't relate to them. All I can give them is my victim versus victor speech. But anyway, so Donald Loudermilk had this to say, quote, "Hey Nick, curious question I have. I've gotten my DNA done to find out more about my ancestry, and of course I was shocked that I was mostly Scandinavian, Irish, Italian, and Greek. I know all races lose their hair, but are there trends? And what about the confidence levels between races when they lose their hair? The race question I'm talking about is not related to skin color, just the different locations of the world, around the world where people come from, and their society's acceptance of male pattern baldness," which I think is a brilliant, I want to use that adjective, which people in England use a lot. Oh, that's brilliant. And about a boy, I always like that movie, and he says brilliant a lot. But here in America, I'm going to use the word brilliant. That's a good question. The easy, quick answer to that I've mentioned before is the one race that seems to go the most unscathed by the baldness gene are people from the Asian continent. Of course, there are trade-offs. Like one I recently watched a video. It's called the Asian flush, I think it's what it's called. Basically, that it's not that Asian people get drunker quicker from little alcohol, but that literally their organs can't process the alcohol, so they're more likely to get disease from alcohol. I mean, there's a balance to everything, but ultimately, Asian men typically aren't going to reach Norwood 3 at my age. My guess is if they were to reach Norwood 3, it'd be closer to, 20 years from now, 56 or something like that. I don't know the exact numbers, but Asian men typically kind of get the most grace and mercy when it comes to hair loss, whereas European men get the brunt of it. We're typically the most hairy everywhere else, but most likely to even hit Norwood 4, 5, or 6, even in your 20s. Not to say that's most likely, but it's more likely for men of European descent. So, with that question being answered, kind of, I also got another comment on the same video. Just wait till you hear this. I couldn't have planned this. Here we go. The person who commented was NSMJKL, and here's what this person said. Quote, "Nick, please take some pills and treatment. You are a brave man and mentally very strong, but majority of people have an opposite mentality of yours. I am from Asia. I have a widow's peak, but I have satisfactory hair, but I use topic hair fibers to make an artificial hairline to cover up my crown. I'm the same age as you. Accepting baldness is impossible for me. Plus my income, plus my income level is low. My wife is a huge earner and is a rich woman, so I don't want man, too many trees. So I don't know if my wife would love me or divorce me if I lost my hair. My wife is an aggressive woman. So thank you for, in quote, thank you for your honesty in telling me about that today." So that's interesting. And by the way, I can relate to you in that my wife definitely makes more money than I do. Definitely. Even with my side gig of being a blogger and a YouTuber, she still definitely makes more money, and we use her insurance. So I can relate to you there. But isn't that interesting? I just talked about the one race that is less likely to have to suffer hair loss at a younger age, and this guy is from Asia, and he says he had a widow's peak. Now, listen to the next comments and see how it builds on top of all this. So Robert also commented, he commented on that person's comment saying this, quote, "Now if this isn't a topic for a video, Nick, I don't know what is. A Norwood 2, quote, widow's peak, end quote, often isn't really even considered balding among Caucasians. But Asians do have the hair advantage, as you've said in earlier videos, and often hang on Norwood 1 into their golden years. I expect a video tomorrow, my man," end quote. So that's interesting. I've never really thought about that. like, you know, Norwood 3, I'm happy to still have Norwood 3 at my age. Trust me, I really thought this would be me by age 25, and then, you know, I'd be bald on top by now. That's really what I thought. But it's interesting to understand, outside my own preconceived ideas, that this is balding to apparently lots of the world. Whereas in America, people, seriously, if you're me, in the real world, when people learn why I'm a YouTuber and what my content's about, they always laugh at me. They always laugh at me, especially women, when they understand that I'm making money off of talking about hair loss. It's completely ironic to them that no one sees me as a balding guy outside of this video channel. Robert went on to say in a different video that I also did yesterday, quote, or the video was called Receding Hairline, M-Shape, Norwood 3, Thinning versus Balding. Something else he said that relates to all this was this, quote, Norwood 3 is balding by pretty much any standard, so Norwood 3 at that age is something to be concerned about. Of course, now he's talking about someone who was a teenager. He's talking about a different guy. Assuming the person suffering from it doesn't want to go bald. Norwood 2 is a subjective stage on the scale, but it's seldom regarded as balding, and often nothing to worry about. Norwood 2 is different, especially if the person showing the Norwood 3 is young, as early onset hair loss is often on the severe aggressive variety, end quote. So I just love all this content because I didn't even say most of this, but we're just hearing from other people. So if I were to try to wrap up with this video, ultimately the themes here, here's what we've got going on. Are there certain races that kind of have an advantage when it comes to hair loss? Yes, the Asian race. However, we learned from someone from Asia that basically he's freaking out because he's got, he said, what hairline does he have? He has a Norwood 2. He has a Norwood 2 and he's freaking out about it. Whereas most white guys here in America, they would be happy to have a Norwood 2 at this age. But he's freaking out about it. So yeah, so imagine the irony in this, that a man from Asia has more hair than a lot of us do at age 36, yet he's freaking out about it. He's using things to disguise his hairline. Because imagine if you were an Asian man. Apparently, if you were in Asia, living in Asia, and you were an Asian man, and you had a Norwood 2, which isn't even considered balding, if that was you, then there's more pressure on you to compete with all the Norwood 1s, like Robert said, that go into the golden years. So how interesting. That, in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, that's an advantage. If you're Asian, you get to keep your hair longer. But not if you're competing with other Asian men, most of which who don't even lose their hair at all until they're even past their 60s. So I guess it's maybe not that much of an advantage because you still are freaking out thinking, but am I going to lose my hair? I mean, it's just, it changes the currency. It's like, what you know, all those things like the orange is the new black and black is the new pink and all those things. It's kind of like the Asian Norwood 2 is the American Norwood 4 or something. I don't know. We could figure it out. This is just very interesting to me because we can see how perspectives change on hair loss depending on what age you are, what race you are, what your culture is, and if most people your age have lost hair. But man, I'm almost thinking, man, if I was an Asian man living in Asia with a Norwood 2, like that's a bad thing, and here it's a good thing if you can be Norwood 2 at my age. So man, I've learned so much. Thank you for leaving comments. What good would this channel be without people leaving comments?